K-pop Demon Hunters and Elio have a lot in common. They both showed up this summer, original animated movies from two of the biggest studios on the planet. They both promised fresh stories, worlds we've never seen before, and a break from the endless sea of sequels. And they're both supposed to be the future of animation. K-pop Demon Hunters is a certified banger from Sony, lighting up Netflix and the music charts. And Elio was Pixar's next big swing, a trip to the stars. But the way people reacted to each of them was completely different. K-pop Demon Hunters is one of the most beloved animated films in years, an absolute global sensation. But nobody really likes Elio. The movie got a lot of hate right from the start, bombing at the box office, and Disney is blaming the audience for it all. But why is that? There are 5 reasons that explain it. Reason 1, presentation. Okay, so first things first, presentation. You can't just drop a brand new, totally original movie out of the sky and expect people to care. The first impression has to be an absolute knockout punch. People are not going to give you a second chance if you don't grab them from the jump. And my god, the intro for K-pop Demon Hunters, it was a freaking event. This movie landed on Netflix back in June and it detonated. The numbers are just mind-melting. It hit #1 on Netflix's global charts with over 33 million views in 2 weeks. It was in the top 10 in 93 countries. That's a hostile takeover, and I was here for it. The internet just broke. Fan art everywhere. People on Twitter were literally screaming for a sequel before the first weekend was even over. It was madness in the best possible way. But here's the 200 IQ big brain move that just completely floors me. The music, the 2 fictional bands, the heroes Hunter X and the rivals Saja Boys, didn't just stay in the movie. They leaped into our world and started dominating the real music charts. This is the part that is just bonkers. 7 songs from the movie soundtrack slammed onto the Billboard Hot 100. Their tracks shot to #1 and 2 on Spotify in the US, knocking down actual real-life K-pop titans like BTS and Blackpink. Just sit with that for a second. Fictional characters had a bigger hit than some of the most famous musicians on the planet. The marketing was the movie. They knew the soundtrack had to be fire, so they brought in the legends. We're talking Teddy Park, the dude behind Blackpink's bangers, Grammy winner Lindgren, who's worked with basically everyone. And it paid off. People who couldn't care less about K-pop were suddenly obsessed. The whole presentation just screamed confidence. It was overwhelming, and honestly, we loved it. It was a flex. And then there's Elio. Oh, poor sweet Elio. The presentation was the complete opposite. You could just feel that Pixar and its overlord Disney had already given up on it before it even got out the door. Where KPDH was a party everyone was invited to, Elio felt like an obligation. The trailers were fine, I guess, but fine doesn't sell tickets. They had zero hook. There was no, oh my god, I need to see this energy. The story itself felt like a mess from the trailers alone. I'm still trying to figure it out. So a kid gets zapped by aliens, then he's in this communiverse, but then he's on the bad guy's ship, but then he's back, and there's a clone of him sometimes. Huh? If you can't even explain your plot in a trailer in a way that gets a kid hyped, you're in deep, deep trouble. They just dumped it into a packed summer schedule to die. It didn't feel special. It didn't feel like an event. It didn't feel like the Pixar that made us all cry over a trash robot. And that weakness was so obvious, it led to the worst box office opening for a Pixar movie ever, $21 million in the US. For a movie that cost $150 million to make. Yikes. That's not just a flop, that's a catastrophe. It was a total failure because it projected weakness and confusion. The exact opposite of KPDH's confident, explosive, perfectly executed assault on our senses. Reason 2. The connection. Okay, reason number 2, and this might be the big one, making a genuine connection with people. Look, it's just basic logic, right? It's way easier to get people hyped for something new if it plugs into something they already know and adore. You have to respect the audience. It's why Spider-Verse worked. It was deeply connected to the heart and soul of comic books. It understood the source material. It celebrated it. And that is exactly what K-pop Demon Hunters did, on a level that is just jaw-dropping. This movie is a straight-up love letter to K-pop and Korean culture, and that connection is its literal superpower. It's not just using K-pop as a trendy, superficial backdrop to sell a generic story. The culture is the story. The filmmakers, co-director Maggie Kang and Chris Applehands, went to South Korea. They did extensive research, and you feel that authenticity in every single frame. It's not just about the big things, like the iconic Namsan Tower or the ancient city walls. It's the little things. The food. My god, the food. The movie is full of shots of tofu jjigae, ramyeon, and hoteok. It's what the girls eat to power up. It's the small Small details, like trips to a traditional Korean medicine clinic or a public bathhouse. Get this is how deep it goes. They animated the characters' mouths to match the shapes of Korean pronunciation, even for the English dub. Who does that? That's dedication. They nailed the fandom culture, the light sticks, the fan chants, the perfectly synced dancing. It's a movie made by fans for fans. It's basically looking at this massive global community and saying, we see you, we get you, we respect you, this is for you. You can't buy that kind of connection with a marketing budget. And then there's Elio, a movie that feels connected to absolutely nothing. And this is the part that makes me genuinely angry. It had two golden opportunities, two powerful, authentic connections it could have made with people. And the studio, in its infinite wisdom, just ripped them out. First, the original director, Adrian Molina, who is an openly gay filmmaker, pictured the main character, Elio, as queer-coded. There were little hints, like Elio making his own clothes, including a pink tank top, and having pictures that suggested a male crush. It wasn't some big plot point, just a nod, a hint of identity, something for so many kids out there to see themselves in. And what happened? The studio got scared. They chickened out. They sanded it all down until nothing was left. And then there was the second connection they murdered, Elio Solis's Latino identity. With Molina at the helm and America Ferrera originally cast as the mom, this was going to be a story with a strong Latino heart. But after Molina left, they reworked the movie, Ferrera left, and the mom became an aunt played by Zoe Saldana. The Latino identity was basically erased from the movie's soul. You don't just give a character a name like Elio Solis and then make his background completely meaningless. What are we even doing here? So what are you left with? A movie about nothing. For no one. It has no roots. By trying to avoid being specific, by trying to make some generic, bland story that would appeal to some imaginary global audience, they made a movie that appealed to nobody. They cut it off from the very communities that would have championed it. It's the polar opposite of the KPDH playbook. One movie built a deep, respectful bridge to a vibrant culture, and the other took a story with a heart and sterilized it until it was just empty, forgettable content. And that's the real tragedy. Reason 3, the reputation. So reason number 3 is all about the reputation, the brand, the vibe. And I'm not just talking about the movies themselves, I'm talking about the studios. Like, for real, what pops into your head when you hear Sony Pictures Animation versus Pixar right now in 2025? The answer to that question is basically the whole story of why one of these movies absolutely slapped and the other one just didn't. Let's be real about Sony Pictures Animation. For the longest time, their reputation was a hot mess. I mean, this is the studio that gave us the cinematic war crime that was the Emoji Movie, and then, in a move that gave everyone whiplash, followed it up with Into the Spider-Verse, one of the best animated movies ever made. For a minute there, they were the industry's punching bag, just churning out endless sequels and soulless cash grabs like the Smurfs. But then, something clicked. See, they never got stuck in a rut with a house style like Pixar or Disney. Their whole deal was, officially, to not have a single look. Every movie gets to be its own weird little thing. At first, that just made them look like they had no idea what they were doing. But now, oh my god, it's their superpower. This refusal to have a formula, this absolute creative chaos, is what let Phil Lord and Chris Miller go completely feral on Cloudy, with a chance of meatballs, and later the Mitchells versus the Machines. And most importantly, it's the only reason Spider-Verse was even allowed to happen. Amy Pascal, who was the boss lady on that, literally said the smartest thing she did was just get out of their way. A more uptight, brand-obsessed studio would never have okayed a movie that looked and felt like Spider-Verse. It was way too weird, way too risky. But Sony's rep for being a bit of a mess meant they were like, sure, why not? Let's get weird. And now, after Spider-Verse, Sony's reputation has done a complete 180. They're the rebels, the innovators, they're the studio that lets its creators cook. So when a new original movie gets announced by them, we're all leaning in, asking, okay, what insane, gorgeous, groundbreaking thing are they about to drop on us? They've earned our trust, and more importantly, our curiosity. So when a title as absolutely bonkers as K-pop Demon Hunters drops, our first thought, because of their new rep, is, this sounds unhinged, but it's Sony, so it's probably gonna be a masterpiece. Their reputation is now daring, unpredictable, and visually mind-blowing. They're the punk rockers of animation, and I am so here for it. Now, let's talk about Pixar. And man, this one hurts. Their reputation used to be actual gold. They were the kings. If Pixar released a movie, it was a guaranteed 10/10, a cinematic event you had to see. But lately, yikes. That shiny reputation is looking seriously notoriously scuffed. It has been a rough couple of years. They've had a bunch of original movies that either bombed or got disrespectfully yeeted straight onto Disney+. Onward got its run cut short by the pandemic, which, okay, not their fault. But then Soul, Luca, and Turning Red all got sent straight to streaming. They basically trained a whole generation of parents that new Pixar movies are just something that shows up for free on the app. Even the big boss, Bob Iger, admitted this was a colossal screw-up because now nobody feels the need to rush to a theater. But it's more than just the Disney Plus effect. Their creative rep has taken a nosedive too. All the behind-the-scenes stories from movies like Wish and now Elio paint a picture of a studio that's gotten scared. They're afraid of taking risks. They get accused of making their stories way too complicated, and Soul, Strange World, and like we saw with Elio, of shaving off any interesting or spiky ideas to make everything smooth and safe. Their reputation is flipping from being the trailblazers to being the boring old establishment. And just look at the slate. They're leaning so hard on sequels. 3 of their next 5 movies are sequels. Meanwhile, Sony's got like 7 original projects cooking. So now, when a new original Pixar movie like Elio gets announced, the reaction is just skeptical. We're all thinking, is this gonna be another one with a convoluted plot? Is it gonna feel like it was written by a marketing department? Honestly, should I even pay for a ticket or just wait 45 days for it to be on Disney Plus? So the whole script has flipped. Sony is the exciting, unpredictable wild card. Pixar is becoming the safe, corporate, predictable sequel factory. And that difference in reputation alone set K-pop Demon Hunters up for a win and basically doomed Elio from the start. Reason 4, the importance of the idea. Okay, reason 4, the importance of the actual idea. And I don't mean important like this will cure disease. I mean important like does the core concept grab you by the collar and shake you? In a world where we are drowning in content, a movie's pitch has to be an absolute knockout. It needs to be the thing that makes you physically stop scrolling through your phone and go, wait, what the hell is that? The idea behind K-pop Demon Hunters is, frankly, just stupidly important in that way. It's high concept genius. You can sell this movie in 6 words. K-pop idols are also Demon Hunters. That's it, you're done. You hear that and your brain just lights up with all the possibilities. The glitz and glamour of the stage mixed with slick, supernatural butt kicking. The perfectly synced dance moves turning into lethal fighting styles. The literal power of music being a weapon against demons. It's a genre mashup that feels brand new, completely insane, and just so unbelievably cool. The premise is goofy as hell, but it goes all in. It knows exactly what it wants to be, and it is not afraid to be loud, stylish, and just a blast. This movie isn't trying to be some deep meditation on the human condition. It's not trying to make you have an existential crisis. It's about mainlining pure adrenaline and fun right into your eyeballs. It remembers that movies are supposed to be fun. In an entertainment world that's so full of gritty, grimdark reboots and safe, committee-approved sequels, an idea this loud, this specific, and this full of unashamed energy feels incredibly important. It's a statement. It says it's okay to be ridiculous, it's okay to have style, and it's okay to make something just for the sheer joy of it. The idea behind KPDH is important because of its raw, original creative power. It sells itself because it's just that cool. Now let's look at the idea for Elio. What even is it? A lonely kid gets mistaken for Earth's leader by aliens. Okay, so what? It's not a bad idea, I guess, but it feels so tired. It feels like a story I've seen a million times. Like a watered-down smoothie of E.T., Flight of the Navigator, and maybe some Lilo and Stitch. It doesn't have that killer hook, that instant I need to see this factor. It's a sweet, gentle concept, but in the gladiator pit of the 2025 box office, sweet and gentle gets you killed. It doesn't scream, pay $20 to see this on a giant screen. And even worse, the actual execution was a total mess. They crammed way too much stuff into it. The simple charm that should be the heart of a story like this just got buried. I mean, think about classic Pixar, Finding Nemo, Toy Story, Cars. The plot is in the title. What's the simple killer plot of Elio? It doesn't have one. It's just a pile of scenes and subplots that never come together to make you feel anything. And the most heartbreaking part is that the ideas that were in the movie, the ones that could have been truly important, got ripped out. The stuff about a queer kid finding his people out in the cosmos, about a Latino kid from a military family being thrown onto a galactic stage, those were the ideas that could have been special. They were specific. They were personal. They meant something. But once the suit stripped those away, what was left? A generic sci-fi movie with no soul. The central idea became completely unimportant because the studio neutered everything that could have made it matter. It's a movie that wants to be about big, universal themes, but it ends up being about nothing because it's too scared to be about something specific. Reason 5, creative freedom versus corporate mandate. versus corporate mandate. And that brings us to the fifth and final reason, the one that ties it all together. This is the big one, y'all. This is the battle between creative freedom and corporate mandate. One of these movies is the glorious, beautiful result of a studio telling its creators, "Go nuts, we trust you." The other is the sad, broken shell of a movie that happens when a corporation messes with art until it becomes a product. K-pop Demon Hunters is the ultimate proof of Sony's let the creators cook philosophy. Their whole guiding principle, no rigid house style, every movie is its own universe, is what made a space for a project this unique to even breathe. The directors, Maggie Kang and Chris Appelhans, were clearly given the keys to the car and told to drive. This wasn't some executive in a suit saying, "Hey, K-pop is trending, make a movie." You can feel that they genuinely love the culture, and Sony gave them the cash and the time to do it right. They hired actual K-pop producers. They went to Korea to do research. They cooked up this insane visual style inspired by webtoons and manhwa that makes the whole film feel like a living comic book. The dynamic poses, the choppy frame rates, the super expressive, chibi-style gags. I mean, the moment where Zoe's eyes turn into literal six-pack abs and corn cobs when she sees the rival boy band, that's creative freedom in action. It's weird, it's hilarious, and it's the kind of thing that would get shot down in a dozen meetings at a more buttoned-up studio. KPDH feels like a passion project, a bold, singular vision that a studio was brave enough to back. Now look, we all heard the stories about Across the Spider-Verse. The production was brutal. Artists were burned out from endless changes. It's the dark side of that chaotic process. It can create brilliance, but it can also hurt the people in the trenches. It's a system Sony absolutely has to fix to protect its people. But with K-pop Demon Hunters, you can see the magic of that risk-taking culture on full display. The movie is bursting with personality and a clear creative voice. It's art made by artists. And then there's Elio. If KPDH is a piece of art, Elio is a product that was assembled on a factory line. It's the tragic poster child for what happens when a creative vision gets systematically dismantled by corporate notes. The production history is just a horror story of death by 1,000 cuts. It started with a director, Adrian Molina, who had a real personal vision, a vision that had subtle, meaningful representation for queer and Latino kids. But then the suits get involved, the test screenings, the executive feedback, the whispers from leadership that these specific personal touches are too risky. So the director leaves. They bring in new people to oversee a Frankenstein's monster of a movie. The queer themes? Gone. The specific Latino identity? Washed out until it's basically meaningless. What you're left with is a film designed by a focus group, a film that's been sanded down, sanitized, and scrubbed clean until it's just a beige paste of a movie. This thing had way too many cooks in the kitchen. It's a film that reeks of fear. Fear of offending anyone. Fear of not appealing to every single person on Earth. Fear of taking a stand on anything at all. They destroyed a beautiful work. It says everything. Where K-pop Demon Hunters feels like a party celebrating a wild, creative vision, Elio feels like a spreadsheet that was brought to life. It's what happens when the money people have more power than the story people. It's proof that Pixar, the studio that built an empire on trusting its directors, is losing its nerve and bowing to corporate pressure that cares more about safety than substance. And that, more than anything else, is why K-pop Demon Hunters slaps and Elio sucks. One chose art, the other chose a balance sheet. And the audience can always tell the difference.